You might hear a little bit of additional background noise in this video. I did recently get 2 cats and they are still adjusting. Unfortunately, they're not allowed in this room because there are plants, which if they ate them, they would become sick. So I can't let them in to show you yet. Maybe at some point we will change that, but if you hear cats in the background, that's why. I also have a window cracked open because it's finally not negative, no thank you degrees outside. So, but I wanted to make this video as a means to talk about some things that have happened to me lately that have really doubled down for me on kind of my next steps. And that sounds really vague because it is, but essentially my plan is this. Throughout the last couple of years, I have been really fortunate in that I've been able to do some contract work around accessibility, and it's made me realize this is something that I really want to pursue in a more formal sense. And so later this year, I will be putting that into a more definitive plan. I am working on putting that together right now and throughout the last several weeks and months. But as I've been doing that, I've had these interactions, and I'm going to talk about a couple of very general stories that have happened to me recently that really exemplify why I feel like I need to work in accessibility in some form. I will go from most recent and I'll go backwards. So I was recently on a work trip that necessitated me visiting the Minnesota State Capitol. And I had the chance to, along with some students I work with and other coworkers of mine, meet with various representatives in the Minnesota government. And I will not name names because that's not who I am. I don't like politics. But one of the people that we met with said a couple of things that were really, really troubling to me, and to me are just really indicators of if an elected official feels this way and talks this way, we have a lot of work to do. And the thing that was said was, number one, that there had been a disability rights day a few days prior where folks with disabilities went to the Capitol and met with officials as well to discuss various issues around Medicare, Medicaid, workplace accessibility, rideshare, lots of other issues that are really important and high priority for the disability community in the state of Minnesota. And this person said, well, they came with their clients. And then she outlined a little bit about how the building was inaccessible, and that had kind of been an eye-opener for her, which on one hand was a good thing that was acknowledged. But they came with their clients. So the they that you're now referring to are the PCAs or family members, friends, caregivers, or people that work with the folks with disabilities, and then they came with their clients like they don't matter, they're not people, they're just clients. That was thing one that I kind of was like, she had been a special education teacher. It's like, you should know these things and recognize these people as people. And the second thing that got said was that this particular representative said, I think we all have disabilities, in one way or another. And I had to exercise a lot of self-restraint not to get up and walk out or say something back. Because if we all had disabilities that were visible and prevalent, the world would be an accessible place because disability would not be seen as something you have to fix or something you have to solve, or something you have to work for. So no, we don't all have disabilities. I, as someone with a disability in that room, felt really uncomfortable with that. And to me, the poignancy of this is that, again, this was an elected official. And on the other extreme, I met another a representative who had a disability. And we're authoring bills and really speaking for legislation specifically around disability in Minnesota, and did so in a very authentic way. And I'm not here to talk politics. I, quite frankly, can't stand the political dissonance in this country right now. I think there's a lot of people who are so set in the way that they are thinking, and they're not willing to challenge that. And so the way that I want to go about doing this is going to be hopefully encompassing elected officials as well as parents, teachers, caregivers, anybody in any field. I'm not here to play politics. I'm here to bring perspective. And it was just troubling to me that on a trip to, the building that represents me as a citizen, to people that represent me in the Capitol, that we still have a lot of work to do. Now, going back a little bit further than that, I went back to a previous job that I had worked at a while back and read to a class of kiddos, and it was a blast. Kids really liked Braille. Their favorite word was marshmallow tip, because there's a cane tip that looks exactly like a little roly marshmallow, and so they got a kick out of that. As I was leaving, someone came out and essentially told me that all the staff felt uncomfortable with me being there because of the video I put up on this channel about the lighting situation I went through at that job. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail right now because I am doing some other communicating and waiting for them to communicate with me before I speak more on this specifically. However, if you are uncomfortable with inaccessibility, with something not being presented the way that you want it, or something not being solved in a way that makes you feel comfortable, that is an indicator that something needs to change. And so I had a conversation with this person and said, I'm not happy people feel uncomfortable. If we want to come to the table as adults in a room in a planned way and have a conversation instead of being talked to outside my car before I left, in the parking lot, I would be happy to be an adult person and have these conversations, and had attempted to do so when I left that job and never had that take place due to nothing that I did. And so to me, when you put these things all together, my walk away from this is, if you feel uncomfortable, it's probably because something uncomfortable is going on and it needs to be looked at, it needs to be solved, it needs to be put out in the open. And when you're talking about accessibility specifically, there are things that are incredibly personal and vulnerable that I went through, where I was uncomfortable the entire time, not the entire time, but most of the time I was at that job. So yeah, I was uncomfortable too. That's why I don't work there anymore. And when you put this, again, we have an elected official with a really broad stroke painting of what disability is. You have people who have worked in a building with me apparently being uncomfortable with the way that I show up as a person because I've spoken out about something that happened to me that was uncomfortable. We have work to do as a society, and I really don't pretend that I have all of the answers. But what I can say is that when you come to the table, when you make it normal, when you give someone with a disability the chance to share their perspective, and you listen, and you actually listen to understand, we can start moving towards change. But if you're not willing to do that, if you're going to either spin it, ignore it, or actively develop policy against disability and accessibility, I'm not going to roll over and apologize for existing. And because of that, I feel like my best response to all of these situations is to do what I can to make a difference in my community. And again, I don't have a lot of details yet, but I am working towards that from kind of a business perspective, but also as a means to really, hopefully, start taking steps in a positive direction. So again, I will give more details on this when I have them, but after these experiences happened, like not few and very, very little time between them, it's just made more and more evident to me that my best response to these things is to try to bring my perspective and what I understand the world to be to people who are willing to make that change and that difference by actively listening. It's not about politics in the traditional sense. I'm not here to manipulate you into believing what I believe, but to me, I want to make you understand the human perspective of this. And I've encountered a lot of people recently who haven't been willing to sit at the other side of the table with me and do that in a way that is representative of what an adult should be. So I'm hoping that changes. I really want to solve, and I think I've taken a lot of steps to become a better professional, to become a better advocate for myself and others, for the students I work with. And I'm hoping that all of this comes together in a big way, and I'll have more formal structure to all of this. But I wanted to talk about being uncomfortable is uncomfortable, but it probably means something needs to change. Being uninformed is not okay. It probably means something needs to change. I'm not here to tell you that I'm right and you're wrong, but I am here to tell you that the way that things have come across so far has not always been indicative of anything getting better. In fact, it's been quite the opposite. So enough ranting from me. I hope you are well, and I hope this makes sense. I will bring more structure to all of these ideas in time. I am, again, in the process of putting things together and hope to kind of roll this all out simultaneously a little bit later this year. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Peace.